Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Nexus podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Burrito Voorhees, aka King Jr.
What's up? What's up?
And today we have a special guest. Where do I start? I guess maybe the initial introduction could be that he's a former member of Yomi, the best MKX Quanchi player of all time. In my humble opinion, we have the one and only Michelangelo.
Yo, what up, guys? Good to be here. I love both you guys, so it's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, man, we haven't talked in a while. I don't know when the last time you talked to King Jr., but such a pleasure to have you.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Funny enough, when Franco texted me like, "Hey, would you like to be on the podcast?" I just listened that day, like a couple hours before he hit me up. I listened to the podcast with you, Rio, and Tom Brady. Um, it was like your guys' most recent podcast, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I got I gotta say something right now. I haven't laughed like as much as I laughed listening to that podcast in a while. Like I had to rewind. Um, it like I probably listened to it like 10 times. Not the whole podcast, but like there was a moment um that I listened to. I think I remember the minutes. It was like 45 minutes and 30 seconds. Um, you were talking about someone and you said, "Oh, he'll like blow the fuck out of me," and you meant blow me the fuck up. You know, like that's just
Yeah,
fighting game
yeah.
term. But you didn't say that. You straight up, you were like, "He'll blow the fuck out of me," and then Rio, he has to stop. Like he's like, "Hold on, what?" And you keep go you keep going with what you want to talk about. You're just like you don't even realize you said it, which makes it that much more funny. And I'm at the gym, like I'm stretching at the moment, and I start laughing, and everyone's looking at me, and Real's like, "Hold on, like, do you know what you just said? That sounds kind of bad." And it's just the most hilarious thing because it's so innocent, like the way you said, because you didn't realize, and like so I recommend everyone listen to that podcast and listen to 45 minutes and 30 seconds because I listened to that shit so much and it was just hilarious how you put it. Um, so yeah, it was a good podcast too. You Rio and Tom Brady like you guys just wanting to rip each other's heads off. It was funny because like all of you guys, it's a great debate and like you guys just keep talking about how like everything you guys talk about, it's like you guys want to fuck each other up. It sounds like in real life, just like the disagreement, but then the agreeing, and then after when you guys are saying bye, like when Tom, like he had to go first, like it's like the ripping each other's heads off stops, and it's like wow, I think this was a great discussion. I'd love to be back. It's like it's so polar opposite. It's just so funny, and yeah. So I had a great time listening to it.
Well, yeah. Thank you for the compliment. And first of all, let me just say this. I guess a geek comment. The English language with one single, what we call a preposition, can make all the difference in the world, right? Could completely change the meaning. But anyway, the point is, obviously, we're trying to be informative, but also entertaining, but not in a fake way. Generally, when Rio and I have private conversations, sometimes it literally does sound like that. The conversation does, and even worse sometimes. Same thing with Tom. So I think we're just very passionate, and um, we have exciting, passionate views that I think authentic, and we kind of bring that out. And thank you for listening. Thank you everybody else for listening. And speaking of Tom and Rio, well, in the talk, we're trying to Mike, we're talking about you, also talking about King Jr. as well, to bring you guys on that podcast as well someday. We'll have to see how it works out because we're kind of loud, loudmouths and try, like I know it can be very difficult with 4 or 5 people to get your point across, but we're trying to have guests, and you're definitely one of the first ones aligned. So we'll keep you guys updated about that. But you guys, maybe mean the audience as well as King Jr. and Mike. So, but let's kind of actually I want to move in ironically in a direction that is a little bit associated with Rio and to a lesser extent Tom, which is Mortal Kombat X, a very controversial game, I would say, to say the least. Obviously, you were part of Yomi, you were successful. Talk about why you like that game and where the game stands in your favorite, NRS fighting game list.
Um, uh, so where it stands in my NRS fighting game list is number one. I know others have, the reason I think others have different opinions on MKX is the character they played. For me, I think what helps it be number one is because I play Quan Chi and I have so much fun with him. Like I'm sorry to say, but like, dude, it's just to me, it's like the peak of a fighting game is like I there's still when I play it, like I was at Evo and I played a little bit with people because we did Madhouse did like a Mortal Kombat X BYOC tournament at Evo, and people wanted to play me like Mr. Aquaman and some others, Eggshell, the guy that won it, and just going back to it, I still am like, dude, you could discover so much. Like, there's just no like with MK11, even MK1, MK1's a little better than MK11, but what like with MK11, I felt like I play it and I was like, okay, I feel like I discovered. Like I play 100 matches, there's not really a new situation that's happening. With MKX, I felt there's limitless forms of expression. At least with my character, that's the thing because I think he's a puppet character, so he has like a bat, so that adds a, a new form of expression where I'm like, oh, I see why I could just keep going with layers of figuring it out, even if I put like 800 hours in the game or whatever. Like I could still, when I was at Yomi, I was playing like Franco and Rio and Slayer, and I'm just like, dude, we're like, we've played hours, thousands of hours of the game. It's all we were doing. And I never felt like I got bored of it, which was amazing. That's why I think for me, NRS wise, like I think it's at the peak of MK9 is right there. Let me tell you, it's MK9, MKX, like it's a fight for like which one's better because I think MK9 has like the story and the just if people never discovered or wanted to discover a Mortal Kombat, they're like, where do I start? I would say MK9. It's just it's the best in like the starting off point. But for me, because of Quan Chi and MKX and how deep he was, I think that's why I think MKX is the best out of NRS. And I still to this day I hope one day I hope I could say that NRS has released a new game, let's say, 2030 or whatever, there's a new game and I finally say, "Oh, this game, dude, I think it's better than MKX." It hasn't happened yet, but I hope it does. I hope it does one day because that's when I would know like, dude, this is at least in my opinion a really good game. Um so yeah, that's what I think, but I know like I can't that's my opinion. I can't tell you, "Oh, you should agree with me that MKX is the best." No, because like I think you would have to play certain characters because I know the game got like a lot of I talk to Dab almost every day. I talk to like King and they all have their opinion too where I kind of get why they would maybe think MK9 is a little better or maybe even Injustice because they played a different character. They didn't play like Quan Chi or something, and I'm like, oh, I see why. Because the last patch for MKX maybe like nerfed some of their things, but it buffed Quan Chi a little bit. Like when like one of the patches in the last update was like when you run, if you get hit by like a fireball or something, that takes a lot of your run meter, and that helped Quan Chi. Just because it's like, oh, I'm zoning you. If you're trying to run at me and I hit you, well, now you can't run at all because that automatically takes half your meter, so you have to wait more. So like some people said, oh, didn't Quan Chi get nerfed? Like the whole like I have to EX trance and stuff. But I'm like, no, it kind of helped me. Like the back two, it's not an overhead anymore, but they gave the forward four. They gave that an overhead instead, which it used to be a mid, but it's faster than the back two. So I actually preferred it where I was like, hey, this isn't too bad. Like, you know, um, So yeah, that's where it stands with me. So you asked me what do I think the best MKX, I mean the best NRS game is, but what was your other question? I forgot.
Well, let me just I think I pretty much answered both of them. Let me just kind of
Okay.
reiterate because I agree with you. You mentioned something very important, and I'll let King Junior jump in. I don't necessarily judge games in, like, oh, what's your favorite game? I judge the games based on the character that I had the most fun with, and I think you said it perfectly. For you, it was obviously MKX1G. I don't even like MK9 that much from a gameplay design perspective in terms of the way the game is, right? Like the glitches, the 100% combos, just the nonsense. It's really not fun to play, against a lot of that stuff. Just this obviously smoke, but obviously Freddy I had a lot of success with, and I love that character. And it's the same thing. MKX is not my favorite game, but I love Tremor in that game. My The last version of MKX was not my favorite. It was probably my least favorite because I think they nerfed armor, and I think armor in that game was essentially required. And again, I know a lot of people will disagree with this, but that's the way I felt. Like if you're gonna make offense that strong, then I think to some extent defense has to match, right? So, and when they nerfed the armor, like they nerfed a lot of the anti-airs, the anti-air armor, which for Tremor was the up punch. So now I feel like I can't anti-air. People are just jumping on me. Um, And I feel the same way about MK12, MK1. Sector, I think, is a very good character, but I think she's overrated. I like the way Kung Lao feels, and Kung Lao kind of plays like almost like Tremor, right? Has like similar strings, kind of short range, not the best footsies, has armor, has a good projectile, etc., etc. So I think you kind of, I think again, you said it perfectly. I think the games that you like, don't think about them as so much as games from a I'm strictly talking from a gameplay perspective, more like, hey, what was the game that a lot of fun with? Well, it's probably a fighting game that, which had a character that you really enjoyed, and that's all there is to it. King Junior,
Yeah.
where do you stand on this?
I think that MK9 like overall as a product is better, and I would say the gameplay is just slightly better than MKX. And I'm also one of the people that wasn't a fan of the final hotfix. Like with the hotfix nerfs came so many nerfs to like my favorite characters, like my run cancel characters. Like I enjoyed using high tech Jackie back then, A list, Hellfire, Dragonfire, you name the cancel character. Like all the run cancels got nerfed. Goro wasn't as fun to use after the armor changes, and they also nerfed the OTG damage on like Tremor and Boraicho Stomp, Goro Telestomp, Necromancer Shinnok like EX Palm. So like a lot of my favorite things to do in that patch were nerfed in the hotfix, and also Coldwell got hit with heavy nerfs too, and he just wasn't the same anymore. So a lot of my favorite characters got nerfed, and that's why I was like super turned off from the final hotfix. And Triborg especially got nerfed, and some like Cyrax and Cyber Sub specifically. So MKX pre hotfix is like a top two Mortal Kombat game for me, and I would say it's like super close to MK9, just right after MK9. But post hotfix, I put it in like third best Mortal Kombat, and I would actually put MK12 slash MK1 over it. That's how drastic the changes were, in my opinion. And yeah, as a product, I would say MKX is still pretty good. The story wasn't as good, but there's still some game modes in there, and the crypt was pretty nice. And I had a lot of fun and grinded the game a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a different conversation when you judge the game as a product and judge the game from a competitive point of view, or even if you judge the game, you know,
Oh yeah, actually,
kind
yeah.
of
Let
like
me touch up on that then. Yeah, I
yeah.
competitively, it's one of my favorite. Like, especially the pre hotfix. The jump punches were very oppressive, but I think the wake up system was done the best in that game, and you can debate so many characters being like who's top 10, and I know like there's a kind of somewhat solidified top 5 roster in that game, but like most of the characters, a lot of it is BS, but it is pretty balanced. Like almost every character has like one viable variation at least and can compete.
Yeah, I don't have fond memories of the last version because I think the game was kind of already offensive, but then they nerfed armor. Not again, not overall, but for some characters. And then the game kind of became, at least certain matchups, that even more offensive. Just like what? Why? Like that was, I don't know. I didn't like the last patch at all. I think it was the most fun when you know I had my EX low shatter and people were very scared to run at me, press buttons, jump at me because of EX up punch. But I happen to kind of disagree a lot on this topic. I think people like this game in a rather like nostalgic manner instead of them actually being like quality fighting games. Not so much MKX, which I think has aged fairly well, but like MK9, I mean, I think even Rio talks about this and Tom as well. Like they praise the game, but like the game is literally like broken. The balance is complete garbage. The difference between like Cabal and like Shiva or Kano, I mean, it's literally the distance between the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy. I mean, the balance is so off, and then the game is like glitches. Nothing is more frustrating than defending with Freddy. Like let's say you defend against Cabal or Cage, and you do your EX teleport, and you lose meter, and the teleport doesn't come out. That is very, very frustrating. It's not fun to play with stuff like that. It's like, dude, I guessed right, and I still get blown up. So stuff like that, and then not to mention the 100% combos that Cyrus can do, and when you break, you still get launched. Smoke is similar stuff, but slightly less impressive. And I would imagine, if you cannot keep out Cage and Sonya, I mean, it's fighting that stuff is just horrible. Sonya has super armor, you know, very scrubby footsie tool. So I think that game, like, if you, I mean, again, I'm using my criteria, right? My rubric, if you will. I just don't think the game is good at all. I mean, and I think if people play the game for money, which help, if they played uh, MK9 the way they play MK1 now, or Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, I think most people would quit almost immediately, and I think they will be justified. Mike, what do you think?
Um, I'm chewing right now. Side note, side note. So yesterday I decided to like not eat for 24 hours. So today at like 10:40, I was just able to eat. So I'm gonna be munching while we're talking. But anyways, so I see what you're saying about MK9, about the characters being broken, um, stuff like that. I think MK9's at least second on my tier list, just because like with broken stuff, and I always think all fighting games. People say I hate the word broken. First of all, like when people use broken, I feel like some developers hear that and think like there's a real problem, like it's a glitch or something, when it's really just like an overpowered move or a move they didn't want in the game. But sometimes moves like that make it fun. Like let's look back at Street Fighter 2, right? Combos were first invented because Street Fighter 2, it was a glitch. Two in ones, right? Two in ones were not supposed to be in the game when you do like a normal into a special move. And guess what? Those people decided, hey, let's leave it in. Can you imagine if they took that out? We would not have what we have today, which is, you know, forward 3-2, nomad dash cancel, stuff like that. Like I think it just makes the game super fun. And some glitches, even though that were not meant to be in the game, it's kind of like, hey, they're happy accidents, like, oh shit, like this actually makes the game more fun. I hate seeing when like they take stuff out of the game that maybe makes it like it's good but it takes a professional player to make it good. Like you're not going to see someone that puts just a couple hours in the game do it. But and Rio was saying this on the podcast that you guys were talking about, and I think he was right. Out of everything I listened to, the one thing I really took where I agreed with it was when Rio was saying he doesn't think there should be something good that's easy to do right away. And that's always my blueprint to a fighting game. Like if I made a fighting game, it would be I'll give you characters that are easy to play and special moves that are easy to do and that are decent, but then I'm gonna have characters that are hard to play, and like you're gonna have run cancels with them, and it's gonna take you a few weeks to master. But those moves are gonna be better than the moves that are easier to do that are just like good day one. Like those should never be good. Like he was talking about, dead shot, right? Like that move, it's easy to do and it's super good. They should never have moves like that, I think. Or they should have moves like that, but just like not make it like where damn at professional play and tournament it's still being used and it's still good and people barely could find a strategy around it where they're working 10 times harder with their character. um I
Just to challenge you on that. But
Yeah,
that's literally the definition of MKX Quan Chi. You do realize that, right? Like, I'm not saying the character's scrubby, but I remember talking to King. This was in the Yomi days. I'm like, dude, like, what's going on? Quan Chi got nerfed, and like, it seems like you're kind of struggling. I was like, yeah, dude, just picking pre-patch Quan Chi in pools, it was essentially free to get out of pools because nobody was gonna block that. Didn't they know how to get on the zoning, and it was very simple to abuse. So ironically, the character that you like, but it wasn't. By the way, it wasn't just King saying that. Rio would say the same thing, even louder and more forceful. So I don't think Quan Chi is scrubby, but I feel like at a certain level he was because it was essentially you had to get in, and when you got in, you had to deal with like
yeah,
hard
yeah. Like
hard to
people could
block
play
was
him.
before they were known as hard to blockers, which we know now, especially Mortal Kombat One. But go ahead.
Yeah. So people could play him, but let's look at the people we're talking about, Forever King and Rio, the people that lived at Yomi and just played the game. Like I was saying, people like Quan Chi, right? Yeah, I don't think he was scrubby, and he was playing the game differently in a game that's super offensive. You had to be this defensive, and people didn't understand. They were saying, back in the day, people would be like, "Well, look how Quan Chi is," and I'm like, "Try him," and then like Slayer's a good example. He tried him for like a week. He's like, "I'm gonna get really good with him, and I'm gonna show you that he's easy." He played him for like a week, and the offense was good. He's like, "Look, when he gets the trance, right?" when he gets the things he wants to get. But then he was starting to realize that in a game that's super offensive, he didn't have the defense down and he started to suffer. And he was like, oh shit, like, okay, I see why. People would always talk about the strengths, but never the weaknesses. Um, and yeah, King played him, and for King, it's easy to play, right? But King, look at him playing Injustice and all these other games, all right? MK9, MKX. He could play any character in the world. This is not a regular person we're talking about. This is like Forever King. Of course, he's going to tell you any character is easy to play in the game. But I don't completely disagree. Like, if you put time into Quan Chi, yeah, you're going to be like, oh shit, like he has this is fun. Um, so yeah, like I see what you're saying, like, but I kind of disagree with saying like, oh, you could just pick him up and he just has an easy to master move. I don't really think so. Like, I still think he was hard to play because like you're getting bombarded with offense and it's like, oh shit, these characters like Tremor are coming at me, and you have to figure out the bat and do this. And yeah, King picked him up and he actually beat me at STR with Quan Chi, which was kind of funny. I was like, oh crap, like um, but yeah, there was some interesting Quan Chi's out there. And I yeah, like I said, like with Rio and stuff, like I just don't like easy to master moves that are super good. And I don't think it's hard to say with Quan Chi, like I don't think that because like they say, he was a glass cannon, right? Like he did have moves that were super strong, and it was crazy like trying to get in on him. Like, it's like Dawson, right? Like you're trying to get in on him and it's like, God damn, I'm like going through this minefield right now. But when you do, uh it's like, oh shit, well now Quan Chi has to deal with this. And it's way different than Deadshot. Or yeah, Deadshot, because with Deadshot, I've played zoners that are boring. Like I would say are boring zoners, right? Like you have Deadshot, which is it's an effective move that he's just shooting. It's like boom, 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 boom. Okay, With Quan Chi, he was a good zoner, but I love the way you have to think with him. You're like, okay, I knocked my opponent down. I'm gonna get out back. He's at this distance. I got to do this. Oh, he's at this distance. I got to do this. Like, I like a zoner that like you have to think a lot with like where you got to position this, what you got to do with this, the timing of this. With Deadshot, it was almost as effective as Quan Chi, but it was just shoot, shoot, shoot. There's no like, you got to activate this or do this on knockdown. Like it was different. Like we said with like what makes for me MKX the best out of the NRS games because the character was fun. I've tried a lot of games where I'm just like, damn, this character's effective, but it makes the game for me not fun because he's effective, but I'm not like jumping all over the place or I'm not like doing this or I have to think this. I'm just like I just have to do this one thing and it's good. And that's what I hate. And like we were talking when we were talking about like some people that have an opinion on oh why I think this game sucks, and then I ask them what character did you play, and they're maybe like oh I tried Jackie and MKX and I'm like well see that's your problem that's not your character, and I do feel a lot of people they would have had different their opinion would have changed if they found a different character. Now let me tell you that not all games work that way. At the end of the day, and we'll go into this later, but I do want to talk about what I would think would make a good fighting game. Like with MK1, maybe like what, how could that game become better? And I think a lot of people have a misconception, but we'll talk about that later. I don't want to like go like into it when we're and change subjects like all crazy. But yeah, it's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Well, I do think.
I
Yeah,
have
let me
this
just say
debate
this.
with Dave a lot actually on the execution topic, but go ahead. What were you about to say?
Yeah, let me just say this. I wanted something Mike mentioned earlier. I do think that the word broken is, especially in the modern times, used way too loosely. I mean, to say the freaking least, right? Like everything is broken. But I play the old games, and when I tell you something, and I've been playing fighting games for 25 years, that's like competitively or semi-competitive. When I tell you Cabal was broken in MK9, he is broken. When I tell you Kenshi is broken, he actually is broken. So this is not the broken in the oh my god, now I have to get in around some zoning. That's broken. I don't want to do it. As Tom says, annoying is the new broken. If you don't like something, you call it broken. Back in the day when we played games like MK9, especially some of the early versions of MKX, some of those characters were 100% broken. Like MKX Tanya, I would even say that about release date Tremor. So, or I don't know, like Martian or Batgirl. You can go into other games you guys want, but that I just do want to I do want to make that distinction. Go
I
ahead.
want to let this be known
Yeah.
if something is broken, like you guys say, right? If something's broken but it's boring, take it out. But if something's broken and it's fun, leave it in. Like stuff like there was a patch they did with Ghostface, right? He had the run cancel with the knife, and I was like, okay, like I wanted to play Ghostface, and then they took it out. They completely took out the knife cancel, and I was like, dude, they just keep butchering the fun stuff. Like, okay, maybe they're saying it's like broken or strong, but I'm like, dude, run canceling and like cancels like that or make the game super like in depth and fun. So when they see things that are like usually like if I could develop a game or something, if I were to see something that was broken in my game, like some people would say, and it's too good, I would usually just nerf the damage. I wouldn't nerf the fun of the move. Like so if it's good, I'm like, damn, okay, people do keep abusing it, but it's super complex. It's fun when they get the hit on it and stuff. Then I would just nerf damage. But I hate when people are taking out like key stuff that make the game super fun, like Marvel versus Capcom 2. There's so much cool shit like Infinites, Cable doing his super like jump canceling it and just doing it over and over. Yes, that shit is broken, but it's super fun to see. If they take stuff out like that, it's just like it makes the game dull and like plain, and I don't like that. But if something's broken, right, that's like super good, but it's boring anyways, then I'm like, okay, this is just stupid. Like someone's just standing there and all they have to do is back forward two, and it's just like stopping the person, and they're just stuck, and there's no like jump canceling, there's no like instant airing it. They're just doing it, and it just looks boring. It looks boring. It's boring to do it. Take that out. But if it's broken, like Cabal's, instant air jump canceling, his nomad dash canceling, like armoring the nomad dash cancel, shit like that looks super cool. Where I'm like, dude, the fact that like they're using nomad dash cancel, armoring it, and not using the armor as intended, right? The creators thought, oh, you could do dash cancel, armor it, and if they block it, well, you're gonna get punished. But they cancel it, and it still gives you the armor properties, and you're doing like more offense. It does take a resource. So I'm just like, dude, shit like that just makes the game look flashy. It makes it look cool. Leave stuff like that. And if stuff like that is too powerful, then just nerf damage, but just don't take it away. There's so much stuff like with MK1, it just broke my heart because every damn patch I would see fun getting taken away. And this is what I discussed with Dab. Dab was like, we're always hoping the next game is going to be fun, right? We're hoping, hey, I think MK1 went in a right direction, right? Like in my opinion, MK1 is more fun than MK11. So I'm like, okay, they're getting better. They're making it more fun, which is good. So maybe the next game's going to be more fun than MK1. But this is my fear. NRS is too good at their job. And what I mean by that is they're too good at like seeing something that has potentially like too powerful and they nerf it right away. They don't give it the chance to breathe, right? So I tell Dab this and we discussed it where we're like, dude, what if by accident they don't intentionally mean to make the game more fun, but like by accident, in our opinion, it becomes better than MKX. It becomes the best NRS game. Whatever their next NRS game is, everyone loves it, right? Everyone's like, holy shit. As a community, we all think this is the most fun NRS game ever. And then guess what? Week two, NRS starts nerfing stuff. And it becomes the second best NRS game because they're nerfing it. And now it's the third best. And that's what I fear. By accident, on release, they just for some reason we all agree that it's the most fun. It's like, oh my God. But then NRS has been choking their game. They've been like, oh no, we don't like this. Take it out. We don't like this. Take it out. And I've heard people saying Boone, he's like he doesn't want to nerf a lot of stuff. But then they just start getting their hands on it and people dissect stuff like Sonic Fox and they start seeing things and they're like, okay, let's take this out. Cyrax, the ambush move, let's take that out. Let's do it. And it's just like, dude, they're just butchering their game. And that's what I'm afraid of is like my expectation for NRS games now are so low. They used to be so high, right? MK9, MKX. After that, super high. I was like, dude, their next game is going to be godlike. Their next game after that, amazing. And then with the release of MK11, it started going down, but I was tricking myself. I was kind of like, no, like maybe it's the character I'm choosing, So I tried other characters, and then I'm like, until eventually I just accepted, damn, MK11 just wasn't my cup of tea. And then MK1, right? I'm like, dude, they're gonna go ham. It's gonna be the best. There's assists now and stuff. And then I heard that they had summon moves, right? There was ambush and there's summon. And then I heard like, oh, when I tried it out, I was like, oh my God, like summon moves you can't move. And in tag games, you should always be able to move when you call your character. And that was already a bad sign. And I'm like, oh no. But it's still okay. But again, MK1 still not my cup of tea because they kept nerfing stuff, and I was just like, damn, like it's so hard to just find a character when like they're just taking shit away like that, and it's not as fun. Um, but so that's what I'm afraid of. In the next game, it is fun at first, but then it just starts becoming stale because they're too good at their job, and they're like, oh, look, Sonic Fox and the Chilean twins, and Ninja, all of them. They're just like these. They're doing so great with these characters. Nerf, 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 nerf. Like, take them out, take them out. And it's like, God damn it, they're butchering. Like, it's scary to me. It's very scary to me. The future of that and something else I'd like to talk about is like I always hear people like a lot of and even you guys I
Hey,
hear
Mike,
yeah
let's
yeah
let's just like handle like one topic at a time if you don't mind. Otherwise, we'll just like
yeah
get super.
of
So
course of
let's
course
yeah, let's King Junior jump in because he wanted to say something before I interrupted him. So go ahead and say that before we jump too many topics, and it's going to be hard to keep track of.
I was about to
Uh,
say earlier about the execution barrier topic, and this is something me and Dave like sometimes debate with each other amongst ourselves, off like off the stream or whatever, off the recording, and I think that's a perfect example of what you would want to have in a fighting game is like Cabal. He's one of the hardest characters in MK9 to use and master, but if you do master him, despite how broken the game is itself and the character himself is, he takes a lot of skill to use, and you're not just going to be able to pick him up. And me being at Yomi, and I do remember the days of Slayer saying, "Oh, I'm going to pick up Quan and just get immediate success." Like that wasn't true with characters in MKX, like especially Quan Chi. Like as much as I hated him, especially before his ruin got nerfed from being like plus 14 or plus 12, now it has a gap and it's like designed differently. He does have the worst defense in the game. If you get in on Quan and MKX, he actually like you're gonna be able to do a lot of like offense on him. Like so, I think he's a good balanced character in that regard. Like he has super good offense and zoning, but then if you get in, it's like he has the worst defense. And I think most fighting games should have the top tiers also come with a high execution barrier. And a lot of people talk about in MK1, a lot of the top tiers have low execution barriers. Like you can enforce their very strong like BS with like a simple special move input like pre-patch Deadshot. All you were inputting was back forward one, back forward one. It was a one size fits all move, and he also had 50-50s when he did finally get in on him. So his game plan was super cut and dry, wasn't the most execution heavy. So stuff like that is like a bad example of what you want to keep in your game, being top tier. So like you know, Cabal is one of my favorite examples to bring up as a character that you'd want to have be top tier while also having that skill gap or execution barrier. And I guess another thing, I thought you were maybe going to bring in like a legacy topic at some point, Mike, when you were going on uh, your like tangent kind of. I thought you were going to bring up
Yeah.
like as far as what things are fun in the Mortal Kombat games and all that stuff. Like there's characters from every MK game are like so different and all that stuff, and like Quan Chi and MKX is super different from MK1 Quan Chi, and I think that's another reason why we're also not like finding as much like fun factor in these like later MK titles or NRS titles in general because they keep having to rework the roster and they're completely erasing their move sets just to make new ones, and that's more dev time and all that stuff. Like I thought you were gonna bring up the legacy stuff for a little bit, but um, yeah, that's my stance on the execution barrier and the top tier stuff. And I don't think it's as easy like the old games like MK9, MKX. The execution barrier is so much higher, and I don't think it's as cut and dry as just saying, "Oh, well, everybody's just going to pick up this character and run the game because they're broken." Like the stuff that's broken in those games aren't as easy to pick up as they are like in MK11 or MK1, in my opinion.
I think that's a complete myth. Uh, the reason that people did not pick them up back in the day, and they didn't because they just didn't know, the online gameplay sucked. It was much more difficult to find matchup footage and actually learn the game. Unless you were part of GGA, VSM, console combat, me with the with the brothers in the West Coast. How are you going to learn the game? You essentially cannot learn the game unless you travel and you get practice. Then you can see, oh, so this is what the game looks like at a high level, and not just some abomination of an online game that's just like all over the place, and you get hit by these slow overheads, ironically, like you still do. So that's why there's this perception of, oh my God, they were so difficult to play. Yes, because people didn't have the resources.
I
How
don't
were they
I don't think
supposed to
that's
learn?
it at all.
It's 100%.
No, not
I
at
think
all.
MK. I don't. So for example, I don't know in MK. But let's first of all talk about fun, right? Fun is incredibly subjective. What's fun to you, to use a strong word, might be cancerous to another player. I'm sure Smoke players thought fighting Freddy was super fun. Was it fun for me? No, I hated it, right? As far as MK, um, one nerfing everything, Astra is the same, Baraka got some nerfs, but Striker is back, so he's mostly the same. Conan got buffed, Cyric got slight nerfs, she needed it. Ermac is the same, Geras got buffed, Ghostface got like slight nerfs, he's almost the same. Heavy got nerfed, Homeland is almost the same. So most of the characters are either almost the same, and there are like a couple of exceptions. They got nerfed if they were quote unquote, to use you guys' words, scrubby, like Raiden, like Cyrex the cameo. So mostly the game is honestly the same, and in fact most of it were buffs to the characters. Most of it, especially to the cameos, most of it were buffs. I feel like people sometimes have to justify everything. Like especially when I talk to Tom. He's go to these. Okay, man, I don't like this game because of this, that. I wish that Tom, you don't like the game because you don't like it. Move on with your life. Like, you don't like the cameo system, and that's okay. There's something else there for you if you want to play it. Instead of like, oh my god, like I wish they hadn't done this, 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 and this. It's like, dude, you don't like the game. It's okay. You don't have your character. Sub Zero is not particularly very strong in that Mortal Kombat one, right? So maybe that's why you don't like the game. Of course, he doesn't want to admit that, but just it's okay to be honest with yourself, the audience. Just say, you know what, my character's low tier. I'm not having fun. I don't like the cameo system, and that's it. Why do we have to go through these, you know, thesis statements and essays and explain this and that? It's very simple. I don't like this game because of this. I don't like MK level because I hated the universal mechanics. That's it. There's nothing else to it. I think just people need to be more honest, first of all, with themselves and also with the audience. And again, fun is subjective. What you think is fun, like MKX Quan Chi, a lot of people despise. They hated that stuff. They couldn't stand it. They hated that, the 50-50s, the hard to unblockables, to a lesser extent the zoning. People found it like cancerous, especially a player like Rio, with whom I talk all the time. He hated that stuff. He thought it was like the worst, blunder in fighting game history that he probably has ever played, and he can make that. I don't want to speak for him, not his lawyer, but he can make that case for himself. So let's just like be honest and say like these terms, fun, they mean nothing. Yeah, fun for you. What about the other guy who's in the receiving end of it?
That's just fighting games, man.
I see what you're saying,
That's just fighting games.
but I do think Franco's point should be like blueprint is the hard to master characters should be better than the easier to master characters. And like you said, like Franco's saying Cabal is hard to master. You're saying he's not.
I
Um,
think that's BS.
I think I think no
That is
matter
straight
what,
BS.
yeah, but I also think like let's not even say super hard to master, right? Let's just say like whoever is the hardest character to play in the game should be better than the easiest character in the game. Like, because there should be a the starting point, right? When people are just starting to be like, hey, pick this character. You'll beat your friend day one, and he's picking a character that he's trying to master in like 2 months, right? You're going to be beating him for like 2 months, but once he masters that character, his character is going to be way better than yours. I think that should be blueprint of like when someone's making a game, we got to have the easier characters be worse than the better characters. That's just it. I think Cabal deservingly should be number one in MK9 because I mean, who else is harder to play than him? I mean, even though you're saying he's not that hard to play, right? MT, like you're saying like he's not that hard. To I think to casuals he's super hard. No one's
That's not what I'm
huh?
saying. By the way, if you talk about
Okay.
blueprint, that blueprint has existed since the conception of fighting games and exists in Street Fighter 6. Guess what? It makes no difference because when you watch the game and you will rank up, that difference that you like to see in which the easier characters are weaker and the harder to use characters are stronger. Well, if you're putting a lot of time into work in the game, you're gonna pick up the characters that are harder to use anyway because those are the top tiers. So
Yeah.
this is all just like nonsense to me. Street Fighter 6, JP, right? I can't even talk about MK because people for some reason hate when I use other examples. I can talk about any game you want me to talk about. Like Street Fighter 6, JP is considered one of the harder to use characters. So guess what? There's a guy who won a lot of money with him, right? So because he's that strong, and then you have like Honda and Lily, and to lesser extent maybe Manon. Well, guess what? Those characters are not used at that level for obvious reasons. So everything that you say has consequences, and that blueprint has always existed in fighting games. It's the thing is balance has no solution. You're trying to fit a puzzle together that that cannot be put together.
I think part of the problem though with modern fighting games is like they're taking away like these execution barriers, so it's making it harder for like these characters to actually take as much skill. Like for example, Homelander, he's like, just an MK1 example. His like strongest tool is like his forward four that has like no whiff recovery. It's one of the best footsies moves in the game. It's disjointed, so on and so forth. And his command grab that almost goes full screen. Um, Mixing those two options up, and it's very easy to enforce on top of his unreactable overhead flight pressure. Like that stuff is not that hard to do. And sure, he's not the best on defense. Has like a weak armored move. His pokes are kind of outside his down four. But like Garrus, for example, I think he takes way more skill and execution to master, and he's not even top 10 in my opinion. Like, and then you had pre-patch Termin or T1000 before he got nerfed, but pre-patch T1000, like especially on release, that character wasn't that hard to use. You're just doing a 7 hit string and mixing up 6 tick throws with a low spike and like an overhead in like the fourth hit. Um, Cyrax, I would say, is probably the hardest top tier that we have right now, because if you don't get that touch on somebody, it is kind of awkward or sometimes difficult to find that opening. But and some of the conversions are a little difficult. But those are just some examples I could think of from MK1 that are just I feel like in maybe other fighting games. I'm not going to speak for other fighting games because I'm just mostly NRS, but yeah, that's just a few examples I can name for Mortal Kombat. Havoc's
Well,
even considered pretty easy too, but he did get
let
nerfed.
me
But before that,
let me name a couple of examples from the fighting game that you guys love to praise. MK9 Sonya. Do we have to even talk about this one? Like again, you guys are judging these games with your massive rose tinted glasses. If people play those games for money right now, you don't think people will, I don't know, any of the modern players, right? Any of the young players who are super talented now have the information and essentially can level up within 1 month that took us 6, 7, 8 months to level up. They will fucking pixel and they will fucking destroy half, like not even half, like 80% of the cast. Cage, Kenshi, I think Freddy. The only difference I see is not between, oh my god, our games back in the day, they require execution. No, that's not the difference. The difference is strong zoning existed and strong defense existed. That's what kept characters like Sonya and Cage, and obviously to a very, very small extent, Cyrex in touch. Nowadays, that difference is gone. Zoning is very weak, and for the most part in MK1, and it was super weak in MKX with some minor exception. That's the difference. It's not this execution. That's a myth because it just isn't true. Were some of the older games harder to play? Yeah, yeah, you can make that case, but it's not like this massive difference that we need to stroke our you know what about. I think it's just not true. The reality is that there is a difference, and most of the modern games are more offensive. Zoning and defense are a lot weaker, essentially in all of the games, including MK1. That's the biggest difference that I see.
yeah, the lack
Mike,
of
how do you?
archetypes definitely plays in and obviously media sources are a big difference too. Like there's a lot more information, but knowing that information sooner like is definitely helpful, but it doesn't translate to physically inputting them with your hands. Like you're not going to be able to watch a YouTube video on like how to replace your wheel bearing on your car and be like, "Oh yeah, I could replace it now." Like it's not always that cut and dry, but
It actually is. In Third Strike, when Tokido came over and fought um, Justin Wong, Justin Wong foolishly tried to hold back against Urian. And if you know how that game works, if you run Urian build meter, he's going to activate Aegis Reflector. So forget about the specific. This is the point. The US was so far behind because back in the day, you had to buy footage. This was even before the age of YouTube. You had to buy footage to learn a matchup, right? Which to a younger audience might sound, okay, this is completely comical, right? But that's the way it used to be. Yes, it makes all the difference in the world. Because if I'm trying to learn a game, I want to have resources. That's true, by the way, not just for fighting against any topics you want, right? If you want to learn a foreign language, well, what are the resources? Like, if you have to go to China to learn Chinese and you know nothing, well, that might be a problem. But thankfully, again, you can learn the basics somewhere right on the internet, or maybe you know somebody.
Yeah, my
That's
thing
the same thing with
is you gotta physically execute whatever said thing though. The media only gives you like a starting point or like an introduction, but like you're not gonna just
that's better than having no starting point at all.
no, yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But the starting point isn't the end point. It doesn't just make you like. And I'll let Mike jump on in a second. But like, just because you have resources now, you still have to be able to apply those resources. Like, you can watch DJT versus Rio all day, and if you're playing Cabal, you can be like, oh yeah, I know what to do against Cyrax now. I just got to do this, this, and that. But actually applying and executing it with your hands, like the instant airs, the cancels, the combos, the you know that stuff still has to like it's not just the resources, and it doesn't just automatically translate into the game. And that's
That's
what.
not the argument. That's not the argument. The argument is that
No, well, you're
there's a
saying the
reason why.
execution barrier wasn't a thing
That's not what I'm
because of
saying.
the resources that are we have now.
Well,
Like,
nobody's assuming that the average Joe is going to be, like he's going to be doing the cancels. The point is, somebody's going to do it. Why? Because that person actually has. There's a reason why they call the modern times the age of information, and the age of information for fighting games is you can let's say Sagat just came out in Street Fighter 6, right? If you wanted to watch Banchan the next day and see what he does and see how to play Sagat at the highest level, you can do that. Whereas back in the day, would have no idea. Like, you wouldn't even know what the best super is. You have no idea. You don't have the basic resources. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody off the street is going to pick up Sagat and beat the next Banchan, right? It just isn't true. But that's missing the point. The point is having access to information, and those who are willing and able will. Mike, your turn.
All right.
Comment
There's
on
been
any of
something
it.
I've been wanting.
Yeah, sorry to keep you
So
waiting.
so
Comment on any of this.
no, no. This is great. Like listening and stuff. I get it. I get both sides and stuff. Yeah, it's very compelling. Like when Franco's like, he has his points and you have your points, and it's like, damn. I just think this is what I think is with a fighting game. When I see people like talking for, I've seen so many times where people talk about there's a problem in the fighting game, right? And they're like, it's this character or this character or this needs to get nerfed, and I'm like, I feel like not many people talk about the actual fix would be the mechanics. Like, I get characters are important to like kind of mess with, but what interests me more, like if we could talk about MK1 because it's the latest one, right? Um, People talk about, oh, this character needs a nerf or this assist needs a buff or whatever, and I'm just like, dude, we shouldn't even be like worried about that because at the end of the day, they could talk about that for like 5 hours and it's going to be the same game. What I really want to see is like changes to the game mechanically. Like, oh, it would interest me more if like MK1, like fatal blow dash cancel, right? Let's give it to everyone. If NRS was just like, fuck it, let's give everyone fatal blow dash canceling and like let's see what happens. Stuff like that where I'm like, holy shit, this changed the complete game instead of just like, oh, because at the end of the day, I see it with Street Fighter, I see it with NRS games where it's like, okay, we nerfed this, we buffed this, it's the same thing. Like it's the same game. People are complaining about the next character. They want that nerf. This is broken. And then okay, a couple months go by. Okay, it got a patch. Oh, that character you're complaining about, he got nerfed, and now these characters got buffed. And then it's the same thing over and over. Nothing changes. No one else gets interested. Like top players from Street Fighter don't go, oh shit, they buffed that character. Now I'm gonna play MK1. It's revived again. I think to really get interest is, and I don't know how hard it is to put a mechanic in a game, right? I don't make a video game, but I would love to see more stuff. Like, what if out of nowhere NRS was like, oh, we took out all summons from the game and everything's ambush. Like you could move at all times with your character. It's like, it's like Marvel, it's like Dragon Ball Fighters where no one pauses during a freaking when you call out an assist. So stuff like that I would love to see more. Where I'm like, oh, this is cool now. Or they can put a completely new mechanic in, right? Where they're just like, oh, guess what? For the last patch of Mortal Kombat 1, pro moves are back. Or just something where it's like, whoa, this just made it more interesting than just recycling, buffing and nerfing characters. I would just love to see mechanics buffed and nerfed. Like for example, I think there's a cool mechanic in MK1, but it's not really used a lot or seen a lot, and it would hype up the crowd if it just got buffed a little bit. And I'm talking about the last breath, right? When you have some meter, you got last breath, where if you're blocking, you take no chip at the cost of some of your meter. Well, what if they buffed it where, because I think right now it's like when you do last breath, every single hit that you block takes a meter from you. So it's just like 3 hits, it's 1, 2, 3. If you have full meter, it's done. That's it. But I would think, what if there's a little bit more survival rate by, oh, when you block the last move that was supposed to kill you and it took some meter, for like 4 seconds, you take no chip damage, like something like that where it's like, oh shit, last breath. Like I'm actually gonna have to think about using meter because I really would like it for last breath. Like you're actually putting that into account. Down one cancels, right? With your meter. Like down, no one uses that. That is like one of those mechanics that it's like, damn, they almost had it, but they fumbled it. Where it's like casuals don't use it and professional players don't use it. There was like once in top eight at Evo that it was used. It was someone did it where it was like he used it in the clutch actually. But it's super rare to see someone do the down two cancel and jump and do a full combo because to us we're like, dude, why would we do down two cancel where it takes meter and it damage scales like crazy when we could just duck a high and full combo you and take no meter and get more damage? Like why? Like I would love to see mechanics buffed and nerfed because then instead of characters, because characters it's like I always like put it in the way of like it's like a forest, right? We're complaining about trees. We're looking at this tree, we're looking at that tree when we got the whole forest. And if we look at the whole forest and be like, look, let's deal with the whole thing, like let's change the weather, to make it better of a forest rather than complaining about this tree, complaining about that tree. Doing that is not going to really change the entire game just by buffing Scorpion a little bit. It's not going to be like someone hears Scorpion's buff, now the whole community is like, oh my God, MK1 just became the best fighting game ever because Scorpion got a buff. No, but we have a chance to become the best fighting game ever if we're like, holy shit, Last Breath got buffed. Holy shit, like everyone has Fatal Blow dash canceling. Like holy shit, they took out summons and everything's an ambush now. Like everyone's going crazy. Stuff like that. I would love to see also, when like you call out your assist and they get hit, I would love to kind of see where if you're comboing the player and you hit their assist, the assist is stuck. They can't just run out. If you're comboing your main character, if your main character is getting comboed and your assist is getting comboed, it's like a happy birthday. They should be stuck getting comboed, and it should do more damage to you every hit. Obviously, damage scale a bit. We don't want it crazy, but like, what if you call out your assist and you accidentally get hit, and wow, now look, you're locked out with your assist. You're both getting comboed. You're taking more damage, and the longer the combo is, the longer your assist is stuck out there, and he has to still go out. And now the timer is longer. So now you really have to think like shit like that makes me more interested in the game. Like if I heard those things, and hey, maybe I'm being biased because these are my opinions, but if I heard some mechanics of the games were changed, I'd be like, oh, this just made me more interested. I don't care what character's broken, what character sucks. I would rather care about the whole game entirely first on like, hey, put a new mechanic in. Like, since MK1 has been out and all the mechanics have been put in the game, what new mechanic has been brought in the game since release? I don't know any. Thank God, dude. I'm gonna tell you one thing. Thank God they put in. which I consider a mechanic, dash canceling, block canceling, right? They they didn't have that in the beta, right? When MK1 beta came out, they didn't have block canceling or dash canceling. And I was like, oh my God, like King and I were playing it and it just felt so stale, right? Because it's like, dude, we can't freaking, cancel our dashing. It just feels so slow. And guess what? They actually listened. They actually listened, not, and it's just like, dude, it became more fun for what it is. I would love to see more of that. Like, oh, there's this now. There's this. Like with the game, not the characters. I don't care about the characters. Like that's not going to change anything. Let the characters be strong. The characters that are weak, just don't look at that right now. The game has been out like a year, and it's just like it'd be nice to see a difference in the a game entirely. That's just my rant. That's I don't think people talk about it enough. Mechanics. They're always like, oh, characters. Like this guy needs to be, and it's like, dude, this isn't going to change anything. Like it's just going to make your character better, and you're going to beat more people. And that guy's character that you hate getting beat by, you're going to beat him more. Okay, we get it. But like, let's make the game more fun by putting new mechanics in. I would always love to see like NRS go from like, okay, we released Mortal Kombat 1, and then 2 years down the line, there's an Ultimate Mortal Kombat 1, and it's like almost a different game, not completely, but like there's new shit, there's new mechanics, at least maybe like 3 to 4 new mechanics where we're like, oh, this feels like I can play this for another like 2 years because there's more to discover rather than like, oh, this guy just got nerfed. Like, so yeah, that's my rant. I don't know. I love mechanics,
Well,
and when I see a game,
you're playing the
yeah.
wrong franchise for that. You need to go to Tekken or something because I don't remember any of the recent games being changed as much as we would like them to. I mean,
I
MK1,
know.
um, you know, you can. And by, let me also preface this by saying that some of the things that you mentioned are not analogous at all in terms of like how they will make the game, play. Like adding a block dash, for example, is not the same thing as making every cameo an ambush.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that
yeah.
would fundamentally change the game in ways that I don't think anybody could foresee. So those things are not the same thing in terms of like the effects on the meta and the impact, right? So, um, and not to blow
I
you up,
I
but I feel like when you
I
said I approach this from a player perspective, I don't know what it is like on the other side of the shoes in terms of the people who make the game. That's right, you don't, and you are speaking as a player. That's because you're missing the other side of the equation. I have talked to people who have tested the game. Hint, hint. There's one in here, but including people in the past, and they have. I think again, sorry, Mike, you have rose tinted glasses all over your eyes, and so does Franco. I talked to Pig of the Hut, and he's like, "Look, Mario, like games are different now. They have more exposure than ever. They can't have an event like Evo and risk a character or a mechanic or anything getting booed and lose, get negative publicity and lose potentially thousands of sales, right? You can't risk making something, to go from an to go something from to an ambush and then completely destroying the game, as Cyrax did at that point, right? So this stuff matters, and they have to think hard about this. This stuff has to be play tested constantly. So I completely understand why they don't overhaul the game. Besides, very, 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 very few fighting games overhaul games, right? There's very few examples that they went, oh, I like this, and I'll like it more because they added all these 10 gameplay elements. Usually that doesn't happen. Maybe you could, talk about Street Fighter, but even Street Fighter 6 has been very, very, very careful. Tekken 8 as well has been very, very, very careful what they do. And I think it has to do with the fact that this stuff is not easy to to implement. It's not cheap to implement. It's not easy to balance. It requires a lot of resources. And again, that's in an age in which fighting games are get more exposure as any games do than ever before, thanks to Twitch, YouTube, social media, you name it.
A random thing I want to throw in there too is HBO is actually streaming Final Combat. I forgot about that. So that's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be on live television, but I'm not so concerned about like adding in a bunch of game mechanics only because that is like a big, potentially big, extreme change for the better or the worse. and that's what happened with MKX in my opinion is they added in like or they overhauled I should say they overhauled the armor for a lot of the characters, and there's a few characters that they didn't overhaul them enough to, and they ended up being top tier. Like Katana, she can meter burn her armor on block instead of spending 2 bars off rip, and she can do block pressure off of it. If you get hit by it, then she launches you, and not every character's armor got looked at properly, and part of those changes from the overhaul, I think, hurt the game in my opinion. So I do think like overhauls and like adding or taking away mechanics can be a little bit scarier, and like character changes are like the safer changes depending on how much you give them. But um, obviously, to from a perspective of a viewer, like a casual viewer or whatever, obviously zoning is not appealing. We all know that. But I don't think the solution is to eliminate or very limit heavily like certain archetypes, which that's another conversation in itself. Is That's another downfall in my opinion of modern fighting games is taking away archetypes, which we've talked about many times, and I won't stray on that for too long. But yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of obstacles with modern fighting games.
let me just also talk about this. 'Cause remember, like when Cyrus was dominating the meta, I mean, one of the push block mechanic, right? But can you imagine what a push block mechanic will look like against a character like Sector, or to a lesser extent, on a character like Kung Lao? She would have a very difficult time getting it. Obviously, depending on the resources would function, right? And how much resource a push block mechanic would do. So, again, it has to do with the. This is almost universal. It has to do with the fact with the way fighting games are played right now and how they're streamed. You don't want to make a massive mistakes and have your game look like a joke. Then and then your bosses are gonna see that. You know how people on Twitter now. You think they're very forgiving? No, everything gets blown up. And stuff that shouldn't get blown up gets blown up. Tekken 8, people wanted to boycott that game because they didn't like the way it was played, and they wanted this and they wanted that. When you ask them the specific, you get 10 different answers. Um, the point is, you can never please anybody. Somebody will always be pissed, and I think that's the lesson learned.
Hmm.
Mike,
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know who was next after that. I'm sorry.
you can jump in since
um,
you have to listen to our
yeah,
rebuttals, if you will.
yeah, I see what you guys are saying. Yeah, people are going to be angry no matter what. Um, like with the mechanic thing, I get you guys too saying like you don't want to do something too drastic. But I'm gonna stick with it and say like I'm a big fan of like nowadays I just look at a game and I'm like I don't really look at the characters anymore. I more look at okay, what are the mechanics of the game? Like all of the mechanics, it can be everything, like how to block and how to do this. Oh, and then what gets deeper, right? Like what's the comeback mechanics? Is there X factor? Whatever. Um, that's what I determine if it's a good game. Like right now, in my opinion, I think Street Fighter 6 is like probably the best fighting game right now, and it's because of the mechanics. When a new character is announced, I'm excited because I know the game's good, like the whole game entirely. I'm just like, dude, it's a fun game. Like, and it's because the mechanics get so deep with like the drive rush, adding +4 frames, like just just the detail of everything. And I'm like, dude, I can't wait for like, and I know it's hard, like you guys say, MK1, you can't just like put in new mechanics and but I hope at least for the next game they really think about like the mechanics of the game. Like, oh, let's make it better than any game out there, right? Like, let's put the most fun we can do. I think crushing blows were pretty cool, but not the damaging ones. Like, I think that's what made it kind of boring is like the super damaging crushing blows in MK11. I would want more crushing blows to be like to add maybe like a juggle or something, like a bounce, like maybe the move didn't bounce, but when you crushing blowed it, it bounced. Instead of doing a lot more damage, it just added special properties. I thought it was cool. I think a fighting game that like you kind of have to remember, oh, to unlock this crushing blow, you had to do like, you had to hit him 4 times or whatever, and then the fifth time you get the crushing blow. I think while you're playing a fighting game, there's pretty cool things when you're playing it, and memory is one of them. Like if you while you're fighting someone, if you have to remember those things, it adds to the layer of like just using your brain. Like I think rhythm, memory, stuff like that is always cool when I play a fighting game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I just hope they add more fun mechanics. That's when I'll be sold. I don't know what the next game is that's going to be announced or whatever or when, but I just that's what I hope. And I'm hype about the MK Legacy collection. The only thing that would have made it perfect is if they put MK Gold in it, and they didn't put MK Gold. And I'm like, damn, like they didn't put it in. MK4's in it, but not MK Gold. What the hell? But I think it's a great. I got to play it at Evo. Super fun. Everyone loved it. So, and I always told people, I'm like, dude, Mortal Kombat, just in general, like the old games, they should always be on the newest console. Like the fact that before MK Legacy Collection, before it was announced, the last time we got, Mortal Kombat, the OG arcade games, was on PS3 with that collection. And I'm just like, what the hell? How did like it take this long to have that out there? It's always cool to see new generations playing those old games, and they always deserve to be like played. So I'm happy they're doing things like that, and it gives me faith with this coming out. The next one will probably be, like if there's ever a Legacy Collection Part Two, we'll get the 3D games, right? Like Deadly Alliance, Armageddon, stuff like that. And then after that, our Legacy Collection 3 will probably get finally MK9 with rollback, hopefully, because goddamn, that game's so hard to get nowadays. I still have my PS3 copy, but it sucks that like, someone that wants to play it right now, it's difficult to get. That sucks.
Well, I believe Deadly Alliance is already, isn't it? Has already been confirmed in the Legacy. It's just
It's
Deadly Alliance to I think it's just the Game Boy Advance version.
yeah, I think it's only just the Game Boy Advance one.
yeah, that is disappointing. I mean, I encourage people to buy this product. I don't think highly of any of these games, by the way. I think they're all broken. They're mm, my humble opinion, rather boring, but that's just my opinion. Um, the 3D games like Deception, I get into it, incredibly flawed. I mean, there's a character Deception,
Oh,
there's a full screen launching. It's not even a projectile; it's like a ground pound. If you thought MK,
I think it's Dairu
yeah, not you think. I know
or
it is.
Dagon, something like that,
No. You're 100% right. It is Dairu. So
where he like slams his back on. It looked hella funny.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Tombstone drop.
Uh,
trust me, I've used the hell out of that move. But the point is, Deception as a product, I think honestly, it might be the best fighting game ever made. It's one of the few fighting games in which I actually played the single player content. And what was it called? I think it's Conquest, right?
Yep,
yeah,
Conquest.
I think that mode alone could probably stand, especially back in the day, as its own game. Like that's how well made that stuff was. It was essentially this,
yeah,
adventure. But then you play the game and then you run to it into. I mean, name it, 50, say 50, because the game essentially doesn't have a wake up. If you thought MKX was bad, imagine playing MKX but without a wake up system. Like if without the
yeah,
alert. Uh, so I think these games are the very, very definition of nostalgia, and that's the only way I can see people enjoying them. If you try to play a lot of these games competitively, man, you're gonna be a very miserable human being, as all of us were when we actually tried playing them. So, I
yeah,
mean, that's all I have to say about that.
I will be buying the MK collection though. Still, I don't know. I can't speak for them competitively, and I was like literally like a kid, like Deadly Alliance. I know it's not in the collection, but like I was born in '01, so a lot of the MK games on the collection predate me. So and the little that I did play them, like Trilogy was my favorite, and they're obviously way more shallow than like the games we have now, so they are like a little more boring to me, but I'm still gonna buy them just for like fun, like they're like party games to me essentially.
yeah,
And yeah, MK Deception's like my all-time favorite MK as a product, and Conquest is a huge reason. But Puzzle Combat's fun. The soundtrack is amazing, and I wish we could go back to the soundtrack that we had back then. and the cinematic, dude, the intros in Armageddon, Deadly Alliance, Deception, like you can literally, oh my god, there's just so many awesome things back then outside of the gameplay in the older games. Because the offline Deception and Armageddon gameplay is like very clunky and stuff, and I'd never even really played Deception online ever. I've only played Armageddon online, and yeah, the online to offline differences is huge from what like Dave told me. So yeah, but it's definitely a lot of fun, like for me as far as like the product and other areas outside of the gameplay.
Well, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that they never intended, at least Deception, to a lesser extent Armageddon, to be played offline because a lot of the moves are like incredibly unsafe for no reason, including, by the way, jabs. That's because the online gameplay was so flawed and so delayed, and there was obviously no GGPO back in the day, no functional netcode. So they made a lot of these moves super unsafe offline. So online they can be saved, right? And you see, kind of we're going like kind of vice versa. So it kind of creates a scenario in which a lot of the moves are punishable for no reason, including like pokes. Um, and that if you whiff something, I don't know, if you get something blocked even half screen and you have a long poke, then Diary does this stupid attack that's unblockable anyway. So the game just has a lot of issues. And trust me, guys, while um, Frank probably he was like what baby, I was playing that as like a very very young teen, and I'm telling you, those games were not good. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it. I'm gonna buy it myself just for the nostalgia and for I hear now that they may have a practice mode, so that could be interesting. Um, the best version from what I've seen from like talking to Rio and Tom and listening to some of the other like old school players is MK Trilogy for the N64 is apparently like the best 2D with the best balance, the most interesting meta, the most interesting gameplay styles. But that's not even included because they have the PlayStation version, which does run better, but has like the broken bosses, has new, has essentially 100% combos of anything. So, I mean, are you gonna go in ranked and deal with that? I don't know, man. So, I mean, I'm just happy to play the modern games. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I do think the modern games are like MK9 and MKX and even Injustice and stuff. Like, yeah, they are better. Like, but it's fun to go back. And like with Ranko said, it's like a party game. Like, I'm looking forward to like having it here and like my brother and my girl, like everyone that hasn't played them really, like just showing them the magic of like, 1992 MK, like this is where it all started, like it's history, And I think that that's what's cool about it is that they're putting it on new consoles and with rollback, which is crazy. And funny enough, like when I was like, back when I was a kid and those games were out, I was like just a casual at it. Like I would see it, the arcade of Mortal Kombat and be like, oh, cool, Mortal Kombat, I'm gonna try it, and play it and then leave and whatever, not really think about it. The 3D games, Deadly Alliance, is what made me love Mortal Kombat because the deeper story, like all the lore that was introduced, and then obviously Deception, like you guys said, like one of the best because product wise, like it had puzzle combat and all that stuff. And I think going forward, we in MK1 it had invasions. I didn't like it. I'm just like, dude, every MK should just have conquest. Like, why overthink it? Why not just be like, hey, this is how they unlock stuff. Like, let's give them a little story because MK just has such a deep, lore-rich story where it's like every game should just be conquest. That's what MK11 almost was with the crypt. I had fun just walking around with the guy and kind of discovering stuff while opening treasure chests. I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm just learning some new stuff. That's what Deception was a complete like lore, just lore in your face, like little things you didn't know about Mortal Kombat. Well, guess what? Like you're learning about it, and it's like, and you learned the history because obviously the story, right? Shujinko was like he was young at first, so you're going through Mortal Kombat 1 all the way until you get to Deception, which is super cool. Where I'd be like, dude, I'd love to see MK, the next MK, again we go to like starting with MK1 and then go through the whole lore until we reach, MK13 or whatever it's going to be called. Um, I think that'd be fun, and you're unlocking things along the way. Like it made me sad Invasions because I was just like, damn, a game mode that probably took a lot of time to make, and I'm completely not interested in it. Like that sucks. Um,
A lot of
so
people
yeah,
do, so I don't think you're the only one. That's part of the reason why I think the game, especially on release, was criticized a lot for its, let's just say, um, what's the right word that I'm like? It's not up to standards for an MK game, right? What they, what they implemented, and then they try to kind of build hype for it, especially in the combat cast, but people just kind of got even angrier, like. So I think a lot of these issues will be rectified in whatever the next game is, and I do think this legacy, for as much as I want people to play it, it's honestly kind of like the girl you date because you just got out of maybe you just suffered a heartbreak in a previous relationship, just trying to forget it. I think this is kind of like the traditional game, you know.
yeah,
And we kind of already know that, right? Because I think this is going to be around maybe for 2 years, and then they're going to release a new game after that. And I think that's what I'm personally the most excited for. Whether it's Injustice or Mortal Kombat, I really don't care. I'm going to play either one, and I'm going to enjoy it. I just hope that they do fix a lot of that stuff, about the single player content. Um, every online fighting game should have the same netcode as Street Fighter. I don't care how they did it. That should be the standard. We should not be waiting as connecting match for like 10 15 seconds. It should be super fast. You should be able to find a match. There should be a Wi-Fi filter. I don't want to play people. If you want to play laggy matches, that's on you. I bought this game for whatever the best version is, hundred and something dollars. I want to be able to choose how I want to play the game, and I choose to play the game without lag. If you want to play the game with lag, that's on you. But I should have all these options. All this stuff should be accessible, should be available. There should be no questions about it. That's to me. You talk about, Mike. You talked about how you would change games, and this is what I was start. I didn't care what the meta. I didn't care what the heck who the hell the characters are. I didn't care what the gameplay mechanics are. When Rio made his video about like this legacy connection, he said, oh, good online, proper training mode, etc., etc. That's how I think you start a fighting game before you even get into the meta and stuff. Because by the time you get into the meta and how characters should play, you're essentially talking about politics and religion because people will never agree. So leave that stuff towards the very end. That's the way. That's how I would approach any fighting game, especially Mortal Kombat One, given its first year release. Franco, what say you?
Yeah, I think those are very important things. Like in the standard, like Street Fighter brought the standard up so much, and I'm not even a Street Fighter player at heart, but like the time that I was like trying to grind for like master rank or diamond rank with Zangief, like I did not have to wait to queue up in a match, and I was able to lab even if I was waiting. I'm pretty sure they have lobbies if I remember correctly. We don't have lobbies in MK1 still, and we're not sure if we'll ever see those. That like lobbies should just be a given. That should just be in the base game from this point on with fighting games and online training. Whether you're with a friend or if you're just queuing, like you're just killing time to wait until you queue a match. Like those are definitely key features you want to have. And obviously the casuals, like the casual game modes, they're the majority of the sales. That the money, they like that the they are the reason why the games get as much money as they do is because of the casuals, and we're obviously a decimal percentage as competitors. Now, I'm not saying that gameplay should be balanced based off of casuals, but as far as single player game modes go and all those other online features, like that's a must. Those are very important for like the launch of your game, and those are like the first impressions that you want to get spot like correctly. That way, people stick with your game and stay playing it. And for invasions, it's just like there's just too much nonsense in it, and it's way too similar to the base gameplay. Like it's just too similar to the base gameplay with some side effects from like I don't know, so like you get like sometimes your character has armor, your opponent has armor, and sometimes it's annoying. Like I sometimes I just want to get my rewards and sometimes they're locked behind invasions, and I just don't enjoy invasions. So like the previous game modes we had that some of the game like had things locked behind like was more enjoyable, and it was also very different from the base gameplay of the game. So yeah, I just hope to see improved single player game modes or casual game modes along with those online features that Street Fighter raised the standard for.
Well, let's end the podcast with some topic with a topic that I think Mike mentioned earlier, which I think is a good kind of like a transition and a good way to end the podcast is with the following question: give me like two or three gameplay elements that you would, since that's kind of what you stress, right? What you emphasize. Give us two or three gameplay elements that you would like to see in the next NRS game. It doesn't necessarily have to be Mortal Kombat. It doesn't have to be necessarily have to be Injustice. Like whatever they make, either one of the two. What would you like to see?
Are you asking him like
Mike,
what
Mike,
game he wants to
Mike.
see in the
Oh,
next,
me?
or
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were asking Franco.
No, I'm asking you since you mentioned it
Oh,
earlier.
you
You're
said
a huge
gameplay
fan of.
elements?
Yeah, gameplay elements. You mentioned pro moves. I personally like those. Like, I would like to see that back. I mean, what else? Give me like two or three that you kind of base the game around.
oh man, yeah.
On the spot.
Oof, I know. Like I want it to be something that really excites me. For sure, I always loved some kind of resource management. The more resource management, the better. Like I could say, I would love an MK with more meter. Like I would love instead of 3 bars because they keep going classically with 3 bars, right? Like MK1, MK9, MK. I think MKX. Almost forgot. Is it 4 or 3? I think it's always been 3.
Yeah.
But basically, I would. What if they were just like, fuck it, let's give you 5 meters instead, like where breaker costs 2 bars a meter, but hey, you still have 3 bars a meter. Like I want to see more resources. That way, the person with better resource management, um, is just like he could be down in health, but wow, look, you used all your resources to get my health that low, and the spectators think you're winning. But look, I have all these resources left. Um, for sure, I love cancel mechanics. Basically, like with meter, you can cancel your moves, like straight up special moves, normals, whatever you want. You can, and every character can do it. That'd be so cool. Like, I want some type of like, almost like MK1 had with the uppercut cancel, but give it to any move. Give it when I'm on the ground and I'm pressuring you, right? Like 1-1-2, and I straight up cancel it. I use 2 bars a meter or 1 bar, whatever it is, and I cancel it. Like I want to see fast pace, um, and a lot of resources. That's what I would love for sure. Is something like that. Um,
How do you feel about bringing in the run button or bringing in like really fast block cancels? I'm mentioning because I know you're more of a player like me, and I like to zone. But I think nowadays good zoning starts with giving the other player good movement options, so you can have that really strong zoning. Because if you think about MKX Squad, if you put that zoning in like Injustice, it would almost be comical, right? Like, nobody will be able to
yeah,
get it. But since it's MKX and there's a run button, right, it's more acceptable. So how would you feel about bringing back, running or really strong block dash canceling, whatever you want to call it?
for sure, better block canceling for sure. The game doesn't have to have run, but I wouldn't mind. Like that's the thing. I'm always like, I love Ultimate 3 because there's run, and also MKX there's run. But I don't mind just dashing, but give me crazy movement. Like that's almost number one for me in a fighting game is how well can the character move? Is there instant air dive kicks? Is there like to get in, right? Like there should be stuff like that. Block canceling should be in every Mortal Kombat game. Like I want to dash, but at any moment cancel my dash. Just to, and the back dash should be really good too. Like it shouldn't feel stiff. It's so yeah, those things. should definitely be in the next game too. I think MK should always be this crazy ass like less neutral, but you have neutral, right? And you always have to have neutral in a fighting game. But I want like it to be almost like an anime fighter where it's just insane. Like there's air dashing or just fast block canceling, maybe running, and 50-50s. I know some people don't like it, but I want with when there's a button to block in a fighting game, you should have 50-50s like crazy. Because Street Fighter is back to block and Injustice. So what made it hard to block was the cross ups. That's what. But can you cross someone up in Mortal Kombat? No, there's a block button. Like you don't have to worry about what side you're blocking. You just have to worry about down up. So if you just have to worry about that, there should 100% be crazy 50-50s. Like it should just be that way. Like Tekken blew my mind when I found out mids are overheads. Like Tekken has overheads that look like overheads, but also their mids are overheads and their lows are lows. So then when I figured that out, I was at Yomi, and when I heard that, I seen some of the Tekken guys playing, and I'm like, wait, I'm blocking low right now. Why am I not blocking your mid? And they're like, it's an overhead. And I'm like, no, you just told me that's a mid. And they're like, yeah, it is a mid. And that means it's an overhead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you telling me Tekken is just 50-50s all day? And they're like, yes. And I actually wasn't mad about that. I'm like, holy shit, I have more respect for you guys. And actually, now when I watch the game, it's more fun to watch because the guy on defense, if he blocks all this, is godlike. And you always have that tense moment of like, holy shit, is he actually going to block all this, or is the guy going to get the hit, and that's going to be hype anyways, right? Just like why is Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 still like praised and stuff is because, dude, the blocking in that game is so hard to do. When someone does it, it's hype, and when someone gets opened up, it's hype. So it's just like the game's always hype, and I think MK could get in that level, and I think it is, but like I just love to see games that it's like you praise the defense because you know how hard it is to defend. And I want Mortal Kombat to be super hard to defend in. Like that's just me. I know maybe people will give me hate, but like I want it to be scary. Like when I play Mortal Kombat, I want to feel like I'm fighting for my life and this guy's gonna kill me and do a fatality at the end. Like I want to feel like, dude, this is gonna be so hard right now. Like it's so fast. I want speed. I want overheads, lows, mix ups all day. Maybe not like once you do your overhead low, maybe you get one more turn or something, but not over and over, right? Like not just like, damn, I just have to block and that's it. And if I do, defensive mechanics, obviously, maybe parries or maybe push blocks and stuff like that. But yeah, I want MK to be like super insane. I don't want them to try to do, oh, let's try to do neutral, a lot of neutral, right? Like where it's just like you don't get this, or we're not going to let you, you knock your opponent down, you get a combo. We're not going to let you like do this after, you can't set up. No, I want to get set up. I want like, to get knocked down and then you put out a landmine. And when I wake up and I have a hitbox, I'm getting hit stuck by the landmine and you're overhead lowing me. Like, I just want to keep getting, it's just, I love the insanity of Mortal Kombat. And I don't like when they try to dumb it down. They're trying to like, oh, no, you got to play more neutral and you just get a combo and then your opponent flies away and then you got to do neutral again. I'm not about it. Hey, let me tell you, I think right now Street Fighter 6 is the best game and it's heavy on neutral. Some games deserve the heavy neutral, but I don't think Mortal Kombat is one of those games. They need run in your face, just insane shit going everywhere, fire all over the place. Like that's what I want. The more insane, the better for me.
Well,
And I
ironically,
guess,
6 kind of has a run mechanic, right? At least for right with the drive rush, which is essentially running.
and
But
I like it.
yeah, no, I like it too. And well, let me get your opinion on this, and we'll let Franco jump in. Would you bring? I have to mention this because this is the elephant in the room. Every time you talk about defense and MK, would you bring back armor?
100% I would bring back armor. Dude, I used to get so hyped when there was those crazy moments of like an MKX where like someone would do an armor, right? And you read that they were going to armor you. So you hit them and armored them. So you basically like, if like you were Johnny Cage and versus like two Johnny Cages, whatever, you would see like hit flash, 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 and then someone got launched. And it was like, I thought it was cool to see. Now, armor should be negative on block. There was the crazy moments of MKX where like armor was like safe on block. I don't think shit like that should be a thing. But I do think, yeah, why not have armor? Maybe one hit, or maybe if the move is like not that good, like maybe it doesn't combo, maybe you could have more hits, like you have to hit him 3 times. But yeah, I think armor was cool. I remember a lot of hype moments like in MKX days where like someone would abuse armor and then the other person like caught onto it. So they armored their armor and then like launched them or whatever. I thought that was cool. And just MKX had a interesting sound when you got hit with armor. It was like that ching ching ching. So it was like cool to see. And Franco was part of that moment. I think he had one of the most hyped moments at CEO. I think it was against Wild Cowboy, where he was Jason, and they had a moment where it was like just armor, 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 armor. Now it can't get abused, right? It's a resource. There should be you have to use meter or something like that. But yeah, I don't know why people are complaining about armor. It's like if it's not overpowered in a sense, like, hey, you should be able to have like a move where you're like, hey, get off of me. I'm gonna armor you because you just keep going on offense. So I'm gonna armor you. And hey, if you blocked me, if you baited me to do the armor, then you full punish me now. Like, yeah, why not?
Well, that's it, Franco. How do you like Mike's, I guess, fighting game philosophy slash gameplay elements? Where do you stand? I personally like a lot of them. Maybe a couple I don't like, but I would design a very similar game if I could. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I pretty much would love to see a bunch of the mechanics. Like, I love Breaker. I'm not for Breakaway at all, and I miss my run cancels. But I don't know how you would implement run cancels while also not implementing a run button because I don't know if you can possibly have both a run and dash blocking. If there is a world where that can exist, where both can exist, that'd be super awesome because run cancels are like one of the most like satisfying things to do in my opinion.
I agree.
Um, Armor, I'm always welcome for armor. Like safe armor, almost should like almost never, you know, maybe in very few scenarios it should be safe, but very rarely should it be, and obviously
Well,
balance will have to play into that.
I like they did with like Kung Lao in MK1 because they removed the armor initially, super scrubby with Goro, but then they gave him armor. It's unsafe, but you can make it safe with 2 bars. I think that's the right way to do it if you're gonna have such an archetype, right? So that way, because Mike talked about, we want like more management. This is resource management, right? You kind of have to decide, okay, when do I want to spend my 2 bars if I want to keep myself safe? Or do I just want to do 1 bar and have the guy keep guessing, right? It doesn't launch with most cameos. In fact, it doesn't with, like maybe like 2 or 3. So I think it's pretty balanced. And I think if you're going to make armor safe, I think it should resemble something like that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that resource management would be a part of the balance of like if there wasn't a safe armored move, and I think that's a really good way to go about it, like specifically from MK1, and I would like to see that in future games as well. And I did like crushing blows conceptually, but like it was just not executed good enough in my opinion, and I would like to see them back maybe in the future. It's just they have to be done right. Like they shouldn't do the majority of your damage for your combos. Like it should just change certain properties and they should be more easier accessible, like whether it be counter hit or like punish. And then the ones that like require you to maybe use a certain move a few times and then it triggers later on. Like I do like those mind games. Like, oh, did he just whiff 2 sand traps with Garrus? His next one's going to crushing blow. And that's another thing that's like with resource management kind of as well is like um, you have to spend like 2 bars on bicycle kick to get the crushing blow to follow up in the next time you use it. So like I like the air combat in Mortal Kombat 1. I think the air combos are super awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics that I would like to see in future games. A lot of the mechanics I wouldn't want to see are from MK11 though. Aside from the crushing blows, like I don't wasn't a fan of the rolls, the flawless blocking meta in that game specifically. So But yeah, the
Well, well, speaking of flawless block, would you bring that back as it is in MK1? I kind of like it. I understand it hurts zoning characters a lot. For example, like, Quan Chi Portal would be good in any other game, right? Because it's essentially unavoidable chip. But in this game, you just kind of flawless block, you avoid the chip, and you stop it from building meter. But I think that's more of a zoning character issue that NRS needs to, um, kind of rectify the situation. Because in a game like Street Fighter, like Guile has very strong zoning, and you just can't sit back and parry everything because he can vary the speed of his sonic booms, right? Or JP can put something on the screen, and now it's just like, no, you can't flawless block because I can, also attack you at the same time.
yeah, I think the
Where do you
pros
stand?
that come with the oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, where do you stand on this issue?
I think with how MK1 did flawless block, I think it's great, and I think while it does have that minor side effect for against zoners, there is ways you can balance, like you said, having variable speeds for your projectiles as the zoner, like with Guile, or Yoga Flame has its varying speeds. And you can also have like other like ways to give characters ways around that flawless block property. But I think like flawless block in MK1 is so awesome because there's just clutch scenarios where like normally you would die and say you don't have meter for last breath, but flawless block can save you. And obviously flawless block isn't like there's no counter. There is like slight like counterplay to it, and like people like will try to stagger you or like they won't do like a full block string. So I think with how it was done in MK1, aside from the minor zoning situation like the zoner situation, like the disadvantage that comes with it, everywhere else I think it's perfect because there's no reversals tied to it like from MK11. So you don't have people turn stealing on hit and on block. So MK1 flaws block I would love to see in the future again too, because it also keeps characters in check from building too much meter on block like we had in past games.
Yeah, great point. Well, Mike, I want to ask you, where do you stand on some of the, speaking of, again, universal mechanics, where do you stand on some of the MK1 universal mechanics? This is something that Tom, Rio, and I kind of argue, but a lot of the universal mechanics in MK1, they're legacy mechanics, right? Combo breaker, the way the wake up works is very similar to MKX. You have flawless block, which again is from MK11, but it's been kind of it's been repackaged, which I think makes complete sense. You have the aerial combat, which is kind of like, I guess, a shout out to Armageddon. Um, you have like the very high damaging combos, which again kind of goes back to Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat X. I feel like most of the game is legacy, aside from the cameo system. Where do you stand on those topics?
I think some stuff should be legacy. I agree with you. Like, and it is like you said. I love high damaging combos. Not everything should be high damaging, but it should take like a crazy setup that you do, right? Like you baited your opponent. You have 3 bars to do it. Like you use all your resources, and bam, you see like 70% damage on the screen or whatever. But it costed you a lot. It's rare to do it. I like that kind of stuff. So yeah, I agree with some stuff like flawless blocking. I love when I first heard of flawless blocking in MK11, I was like, NRS is going in the right direction, because it's a deep mechanic. It's like a mechanic that I'm like, whoa, this could be fun years from now after the game dies. Like we could still be discovering stuff with it. I like mechanics that like that. I think flawless block is still not executed correctly. Like seeing it just at high level. Like when we seen top eight at Evo, right, for MK1, we seen it a lot, which was great. Like the way I seen it at that top eight, I was like, I wanted to always see it like that. Almost even when just casuals play, like give it a little more frames to do it, where it's a little easier to execute, because like it's still like rarely seen. I go to locals and like you don't see it as much, and it's like, dude, these guys play a lot. Like flawless block should be more implemented. But I think this is the problem with mechanics of Mortal Kombat 1, or not Mortal Kombat 1, but just NRS in general. they they don't make them too powerful, like up block, right? Like I don't like that. I don't like up block. It's just a weird mechanic. It doesn't look flashy. Breaker, I love Breaker, but I want Breaker to actually like be where you could bait the Breaker. Like I love like Guilty Gear, for example, right? They have where you could blow someone up where you're pressuring them and comboing them. But if you see they have Breaker and you're like, he's about to Breaker right here, you could block and they breaker, and then you get a full combo. Injustice had it, right? In Injustice 2, where you could you have the jump out or whatever, right? You're getting comboed and like you kind of like jump out of it. I forgot what they called it, but like you could back three it. Like if you call that out, stuff like that just adds hype. If a game, I just hope NRS when they're making a game, they're like, will this make the crowd just scream? And I love stuff like that. That is just like and stuff and that like holy shit like he baited the breaker, like stuff like that's pretty cool. um but I feel like they just make their mechanics a little too weak, like the last breath, the down two cancel, the up blocking. Like I'm just like, damn, some of these mechanics aren't as hype. I want them to be more hype, like like make them stronger, make like because at my point is like if you buff and nerf characters, the fact like, oh, this character got buffed, well, now it's a problem for all of the characters. But if you buff and nerf a mechanic, well, it's a problem or a solution for all characters. Like if you buff a cool mechanic, um, it's like, oh shit, down twos got buffed or flawless block got buffed. Now no one can say, oh, that's not good for my character. It's like, yeah, it's good for every character. Um, so that's why I love if they work on mechanics
I
more.
mean, it
So
can
that
be a double-edged sword. Let me give you a quick example. I don't know if you ever played Street Fighter Five or how much you played of it, right? Because they added this uh, I think they call it V shift. Is essentially like
yeah.
an invincible backdash, but obviously it benefited zoning and offensive characters much more than it benefited, the offensive characters. Because if you V-shifted a command grab, there was enough time for you to dash back in and get a huge combo. Whereas, there was some stuff that you could V-shift fireballs, but it was a lot more difficult and it was a lot more, situational than V-shifting somebody's offense and punishing them for it and or even just knocking him down, right? So not all gameplay elements are created equally in terms of how they affect the meta. This is kind of what I was insinuating earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. When I was saying it about like it completely not affecting too much, no, it does. Like there could be a mechanic that's put in the game where it's like, well, shit, this benefits this zoner more because now it hurts everyone else. I do agree with that. Like, but I just don't think it does as much. But
Yeah.
what?
You mentioned also like flawless blocking and how when you go to locals you don't see it as much. Well, the reason you don't see it as much is because up close it's a lot harder to do, right? How are you gonna know whether I'm 12 frame, my 12 frame mid, or I'm gonna do a low jab, which is 7 frames. I'm gonna do my jab, which might be like 7 or 8 or 9, right? But you see it a lot against fireballs because it's a lot easier to predict, you know, not just to predict, but just to react. I see a fireball, I'm gonna block it this second. It's always the same timing, like that's why flawless blocking is very, very. It honestly favors the offensive character because you wouldn't think it of such, but that's kind of what it does because it's a lot easier to flawless block something that you can literally see coming towards you for like 2 seconds than flawless blocking a string up close, which can be dangerous, right? Because you can get hit by the overhead or you can get thrown into a combo, etc., right?
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, some mechanics can be dangerous for certain characters. Like it benefited Quan Chi in MKX when when people would they implemented that one mechanic where if you run and get hit by like someone's limb or like a fireball or
Yeah.
something, it takes away half your meter. That wasn't in the game at the start, but then it helped Quan Chi because I'm like, hey, it's gonna help my zoning because I'm hitting people all the time when they're trying to run at me, and now it's gonna make it difficult because they have to wait for the meter to come back. Um, like I do get that stuff, but I just want MK to be crazy. I think it's one of those games. It's like a Tekken. It's like super offensive, but yeah, have the fun zoners. I didn't like freaking MK11, the that plant chick, Cetrion. I her zoning was it was effective and it was strong, but it was so boring where it's just like, oh my god, this sucks to watch. It even sucks to play. Like where it's just like, god damn, like to me, Quan Chi was like so fun because it's like you're putting runes out, but runes are you're not just putting runes out, you're waiting to get bat, you're counting the seconds. So you're managing. I love when you have to manage your zoning, where it's like, oh, I could like hit him here and now I could buff my character with something or do this. It's like different. It's not just rock, 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 rock. And hey, look, this is effective, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And you're not thinking. Zoning should be very strong, but you have to think. And zoners should have a lot of tools. That's my opinion. That's what makes
And
it fun.
I think what you're also referring to is maximizing the interactions, right? Like, um, so you like throwing rules with Quan Chi, then maybe you do a skull, then maybe you call the bat, like then you might be moving, like you're doing very, very different things at all times, right? Like, and I like that. And I think that's kind of like what Kung Lao is in MK1, right? You're doing the instead of your boss saw, and then you're doing the mid hat, and then you call in the sector missile as your assist, and then you dive kicking in. Like you see how there's like a, like you said, there's like a management situation depending what they're out on the screen, and you're doing something different. So it's not boring for the audience to see, oh look, he just risk trying the crap out of the other guy, right? So it's more like an interaction that's pleasant for the audience to view. Do you agree?
Yeah, dude. That's how I want fighting games always. When I look at it through a spectator, like I know it would be fun to play. Like that's what I want to look at. Is like I want the audience to be having fun watching it because I think also if the audience is having fun watching it, you're probably having fun doing it. If the audience is kind of bored, like, oh shit, this is all he's doing, you're probably bored just doing that. You had like Tanya's teleports all day until they nerfed it, right? In MKX, it was like teleport, teleport. It was super strong, but it got boring after a while, right? Like Cetrion, rock throw, rock throw, rock throw, ground pound. Like it's effective, but so boring to watch. And I'm just like, so when I see like people playing Street Fighter, people playing Tekken, I'm just like, dude, this looks fun. And I try it out, and I'm like, it is fun. It's fun to play. It's fun to watch. You just need your character's tools. He should have a lot of stuff that is strong and fun to do instead of just like there's that one thing he does and it's super good and you just do that. Like that should never be a thing.
King Junior, where do you stand on this topic in terms of how you would balance the zoning characters? Because we know that NRS sometimes they're strong but they're boring, or they're boring and they're weak.
Yeah,
So,
I think they
what do
need to
you
stop
what would
being
you?
so cautious and stop with these like Quan Chi and MK1. Like they keep buffing him as a premier zoner with rushdown tools, and it's like extra reason to not buff him in the zoning department. Like we can't buff him because he has an overhead knockdown tool now that he got in the most recent patch. We can't have him zoning while having orange portal and having that move because he has a low starter as well that he could pair with it. So I think they need to just stop being scared of zoning, and he would take an overhaul to fix and rebalance, obviously. But zoning characters going forward, I think MKX Quan is like a good example of like a good zoner. Like his rune, it has four distances, or I'm sorry, it has three distances. It has close, medium, far. I would maybe make like a fourth distance to have a very far. Like Freddy's another good example of a like good zoner. Like in some areas, I would make it to where he doesn't have no zoner should have like a tracking projectile. You should have to have manual inputs dialed in for four distances, and maybe have like a standard high projectile, and maybe depending on the character or the zoner you want them to be, maybe have some aerial projectiles too, because Quan Chi he's mostly a grounded zoner, and aside from flawless block obviously being a huge like pain for him to deal with, his projectiles just recover so slow, and you obviously want the purple portal to enhance them, but his the startup on the projectile is really slow. The recovery is not the best. Like Li Mei has a faster recovering projectile than Quan Chi, a premier zoner, while she's like a hybrid character, more so rushdown. But yeah, she has a better recovering projectile than he does. Her aerial projectile recovers better than his, along with like Kung Lao, Sindel, and his meter burn projectile is the slowest in the game. And yet Liu Kang gets a faster meter burn projectile that also eats projectiles. Like, why does Quan Chi, the premier zoner, have a like 40 frame meter burn projectile that trades with other meter burn projectiles, even though his is like 40 frames? So I think some of the changes they need to make, like going forward with zoners, I don't think is too difficult to see. I think it's just a fear thing more than anything. Like, you know, and obviously, I know my changes I've suggested many times, and a lot of it looks like a laundry list, but um, Quan Chi and MK1 does need like a redesign kind of, or not like a, I guess overhaul, but yeah, it's just I think we should be making zoners have those kind of tools, like the manual inputted distances for far, medium, like no tracking, and then like your standard like projectiles that are like highs, or maybe if you cross like if you spend a resource or something, it could become like a mid or something. We don't want straight shot, dead shot from pre-patch times of Injustice 2.
I agree 100%. Actually, I think we're maybe talking too much about projectiles, but most one of the most interesting recent zoningers I've ever played was actually Poison in Street Fighter Five, who doesn't even have a projectile. She used to have one in Street Fighter 4. They removed it, but she has this whip and essentially a stance. She can whip you for like I don't know 3/4 of the screen, and the whip does more damage than a regular projectile. So she can use that to trade with other zoners and zone you, and it's cancelable. And she can also do like an up version, and she could again she can cancel and stop. Super interesting, so fun to play. Still has bad defense, but she still has the typical zoning weaknesses that you would expect. And she's very strong. She's not being top tier. To this day, I still like Search Fudo, and he was one of the premier um, poison players, in the game throughout the game's history. So that's the stuff that I want to see. Like, dude, I'm old. I'm past the just pew pew stuff. Yeah, I used it. I got top 80. Well, I'm done with that. Right? Give me like something interesting. I'm playing games for fun now. Like semi-competitively, where I may go to a tournament. Maybe like once or twice a year at most. But like, give me something interesting like that I've never used before. I want to see stuff like that. Like, I don't know why on earth can I create a Zona that doesn't have any projectiles. Make him like poison. Like, you know, they lied about Rain, called him a premier Zona. What Rain should have been is just like a guy who shoots like water guys at you, who zones you mid range, or something like that, right? I'm talking out of my ass, but that's what I want to see. I want to see something that's interesting, something that's deep, something that like Mike says, kind of makes the audience say, "Whoa, like this is so interesting. We've never seen this before." Instead of just pew pew pew, or that stuff, or being too careful because now you're afraid of making a zoning character good. Um, we'll see if they can do it.
And that's
But I think over
one
to
thing.
yeah.
Also,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted
No, no,
to
no, no. Go
add
ahead. Go ahead.
to like JP of all the like modern FGC zoners. I think he's the most fun to watch. Like I think even casuals probably like find him pretty entertaining to watch. Like that's a good
He's,
example of a zoner.
Yeah.
he's another good one. And I know most people don't think about zoning when they think Kung Lao, but I think in MK, the way Kung Lao is designed, Franco, I think you got my back on this. I think he's also very interesting. He does different stuff. Has obviously stronger offense that you would expect from a zoner because he has an unreactable overhead, good jab string, etc., etc. But the way he just plays, and if you watch like online gameplay, like he'll zone people out, and he'll just do a bunch of different attacks at that range, so it's not boring to watch. And he'll come in and do his offense. Has safe armor with 2 bars, so I feel like that's something that I think in the future game, I would like to see that design again. Maybe not on Kung Lao because I know Kung Lao players are not happy, but give that to a character like I don't know Rain or whoever you want to call the Premier Zone. I think that would be very very interesting. And again, he kind of fits the sector cameo very well because he can like put a missile on the screen and then like dive kick in or maybe just backdash and create this. It's just very very. He's super fun to uh, to play, and he's not boring to play against. Franco, would you agree?
Yeah, I would love the see stuff like that and like another character in the future. And I forgot to add in my list of mechanics I would like to see in the future. I'm a fan of cameos. They're a little underpowered in some areas, in my opinion, in this game, but obviously it's NRS's first time using them. But I like cameos, and like being able to throw in a sector missile is cool if you're trying to zone or Oki, stuff like that, and stuff like that wouldn't be possible if cameos didn't exist. Um, but just like very short comment I forgot to add in earlier, but
Yeah. Well, I think cameos obviously are a bit more controversial because a lot of people don't like them.
yeah,
But I
they
think,
definitely are. Yeah, I
yeah, yeah,
understand that from especially like casuals.
so correct. It's can be a double-edged sword. But I think we're almost 2 hour in. I'll let Mike have the last word because he is the guest, and we'll kind of wrap it up from there. And maybe we can have you guys on the other podcast with our friends Tom and Rio. But I'll give Mike the last word.
I just want you guys to know, like, I went to Evo. I know I don't think you guys went. I know Franco didn't go. I don't think you went to
Oh,
M2 Dave.
I didn't.
But I had a great time. As you guys know, I've been hosting events in the Bay Area called Madhouse, and we've been super successful. King, he was living with me for like 3 months. He went to some. Guamo, he's been to some. And like we're pretty much taking over the Bay Area when it comes to like hosting events, and we're not just located in one spot. We do different areas like in the Bay Area, but we've also done outside. Like we go to SoCal now. We've been doing stuff. It's called Risk. We've been helping them out. We've been going to Reading, like it's like 4 hours away. So we've been gaining traction, and we went to Evo this year. Last year we did a team tournament, a Street Fighter 6 team tournament. But this year we did the MKX BYOC tournament. It had medals, all that good stuff. Mr. Aquaman commentated with me. You can see it on YouTube now. And it was just such a great reunion, dude. It was the 10-year anniversary. To see some of these high level players, let me tell you, I got to give a shout out to Eggshell. That kid, I was hearing like, word of mouth. People were talking about this guy Eggshell, right? Like, dude, he's insane. And I start playing MKX at Evo. While we were setting up our stream and everything, I was playing with some people, and Aquaman he wanted the run back, right? Because he's like, dude, I've never beat you in tournament in MKX. I was always his tournament demon. I kept him out of a lot of top eights. So we had a run back at Evo, which was super fun. And this kid comes up to us. He's not a kid, but like, one of these dudes comes up to us, and it's Eggshell. And he's just like, dude, super nice dude. And he says, I'm winning MKX. And the way he said it, like, you hear when people say they're going to win the tournament, like, you're like, okay, whatever. But this guy, I heard about him already. But then he came up to me, and the way he said it, it's like he looked at me like, are you stupid for even asking? But he's super cool. Like, I was like, dude, this guy's going to win it. Like, he sounds so confident where he would be shocked if he lost. And he put on the greatest show. Like, the way you shit talk in a tournament should, like, he did it the right way. Like, he was super disrespectful to his opponent, but then after the match, super respectful, like, super cool. And at the BYOC area, it started bringing other people that were in like, DOA tournament, like Street Fighter tournament at the BYOC. They had to stop playing, and people turned to Mortal Kombat X and were watching because this guy Eggshell, the way he was talking shit was insane. You could tell his level was beyond, like, he was super good at the game. I could tell you two things. There was one thing, and I've never seen this before. Um, he was already in grand finals. The guy had to reset him. He beats the guy around, and during when it says like round two, he puts his controller down, he turns around, he starts talking to the crowd, he lets the guy beat him around. And it's funny because the guy like drops a combo right while trying to kill his character, and he drops the combo, and HL goes up to his ear like, "You dropped the combo? I'm letting you hit me. How are you dropping the combo?" Like, he's talking that much shit. You have to see it. It's on YouTube. Um, and like, and another crazy thing, he was kicking ass so much, he let a crowd member, not even his friend, random crowd member, he's like, "Here's my controller. You pick the character for me." And a guy picked the character, and that guy knew who to pick in terms of like who's a low tier character, he goes to Bo Right Show. I think it's what's it called, Drunken Fist. You know the one where he has to drink and stuff, where people consider like low tier.
Yeah.
He basically picks Bo Right Show, the person that, and he picks him, and Eggshell's like, all right, and he starts playing. He does lose with him, but he almost wins. I think he like took a round with him and shit. But he obviously he lost, and then he goes to another character, and dude, he was just like, and he was screaming like almost where entire Evo could hear and shit. Like it was popping off. It was super fun. So like we were, for a 10-year anniversary, just like we appreciated it so much. We seen legends like people like John Choi were watching. Afro Cole came to the stream. He was there. Like, dude, people that I looked up to before I went to Evo, before it was even called Evo, people like Afro Cole I looked up to, which this is a fun fact. Afro Cole actually tested Shaolin monks. When I was a kid and I beat Shaolin monks, um, the credits show pictures of the testers and like the whole, the development team of Shaolin monks. Um, and I was looking at the picture, right? And I see Afro Cole in it. And I'm already a fan of him from like, um, when he was in Sunnyvale Golfland and stuff, playing at those old school Evos. And I look and I know it's him. I'm like, what the hell is that Afro Cole? Years later, I'm at Yomi, and Afro Cole actually comes to Yomi to hang out with us. And I tell him, I tell Slayer, I'm like, dude, Slayer, do you know Afro Cole tested Shaolin monks? And he's like, shut the fuck up. No, he didn't. And I'm like, he did, I swear. And Slayer and I, we had a bet, and we went up to him, and I'm like, dude, you tested Shaolin monks? And he's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, dude, you're in the credits. Like, of course. And Slayer was shocked. He was like, are you kidding me? So it was cool to see like legends around and just like, dude, out of any BYOC tournament, we brought the hype. We had the best stream equipment. It was just super successful, super fun. If you guys haven't looked at it, just check out Bay Area Madhouse on YouTube. That shit was super cool. I had a fun time. So yeah, I guess just to sign off is like, I'm just looking forward to it. Hey, if I'm comfortable now, not forcing myself to love a fighting game and forcing myself to play it because that's how I feel like I would need to be part of the community. Hey, like I have this beautiful thing with two other guys that we host tournaments and it's super successful called Madhouse, and I commentate, and it's been great, and we just see it going up. We've been getting a lot of sponsors. We have good deals going with like a lot of other locals in the community, which I'm starting to find out um, there's shit going on too with politics, like you becoming a really good local. And I've talked to Aquaman about this, and it happens where like when you start, gaining traction, when you're like this local that's coming up and doing good, and we've been doing it for like 3 years. There's others that like they kind of like instead of trying to help like bring us together and stuff, they try to like bring you down in fear of like their business going down or something, like, and it's just sad to see, but whatever, fuck them. It is what it is, and I'm super happy to just be part of the FGC still, even if it's not competing all the time. Like, um, it's still fun to be part of with the commentary, and you know, a lot of love to the NorCal people that are helping us, like Guildhouse and others like King's Cup. Like, so much respect to them and love. And yeah, so thanks for your time, guys.
Well, thank you for promoting the NRS community and promoting Mortal Kombat, and most importantly, thank you for building up the community, which I think is one of, you mentioned somebody that I was trashing in, in the other podcast. That's something I will give Chris Michelle credit for, is encouraging people like you to promote our scene instead of certain maybe content creators or people on Twitter, everybody being negative and trashing the scene, trashing the games, trashing the players instead of doing the opposite. But with that said, I appreciate Michelangelo. Obviously, check out, search, Madhouse on YouTube. I still have to watch those videos. I'll be glad to watch them. So, again, I'm your co-host, M2 Dave. My other co-host, of course, is always here. Franco King Jr., aka Burrito Voorhees. We want to thank Michael Angelo for being on this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we shall see you in the next one.